my mother getting older, my brother's getting older. Talking about it makes me sad. I don't know if I'll ever be able to understand the concept of time, because as you live it, especially if you have small kids, it's a mind game. I want time to stop, but at the same time, I want it to go faster. I just find myself spiraling. Okay, welcome to my This is 35 episode. It's kind of crazy because it's me. I'm the 35-year-old. And I don't know if you can relate, but my whole life I've always been the youngest in the room. And now I'm starting to see that I'm not. And it doesn't come with necessarily any fears of getting older. I mean, that's its own topic, but more just like the comprehension that you're not a 20-something anymore, or just like a 30 years old girl. And I say girl because when I was 30, I was still a girl. This is an episode where I just want to sit down and talk to you guys. It's more kind of like a out loud reflection than anything else. You know, I've been very specific with the way I share my journey online, and it's truly comes from a place of taking you with me, kind of telling you in real time the lessons that I'm learning, never from an expert position, because I will never be an expert in anything. I'm just, trying to figure out how to be an expert about myself. But while I'm unraveling and learning more about myself, I've noticed early on that when I share these moments, when I share these lessons, it gives you guys an opportunity to look into your own experiences, because although it feels like we're all going through very unique type of challenges, they really are not that unique. I'm sorry to break it down to you. We're all living same kind of lives in different packaging, but the challenges are very similar. I'm just very grateful that I'm able to share a lot of that with you and for it to resonate with you. So you see, I right away go into like, I love you guys. It's this like sappy, but there's really a lot that I've learned in the 35 years that I've been around. I feel like the learning has started probably 26. I don't really know. I can't put my finger on it. Always been a very observant type of person. So it was never like this big hit of self-awareness. It was just, I always felt like I have like a bird's eye view into my life, but there's a lot of things that I still don't know. But I want to start sharing the things that I do know. And let me preface it, the fact that I know them now, but they might change. And that's actually, let's start with that, because that is the first lesson. The first lesson is understanding that life is all about evolution, and life is all about contradicting yourself. And the ability to be comfortable with that is something that I've only gained in the past couple of years. And now I wholeheartedly integrated it into my life. And I don't feel ashamed anymore with making certain statements or claims about my beliefs or about how I see the world. And then a few days or weeks or months or years later to be okay changing my mind about them. I found that that's something that I haven't seen around a lot, especially in the past, I would say 5-6 years, just the climate of being able to come out there and say, this is what I know now, but it might not be relevant soon. It hasn't been an environment that welcomes that type of knowing. It also requires you to really be comfortable with yourself, right? I got to find comfort and confidence in who I am, hence why it doesn't take away from who I am when I say, hey, I was wrong about this, or I changed my mind about this. And that has been actually a really pretty remarkable gift, I have to say. I hope that more and more people will feel comfortable with that notion and feeling comfortable and letting themselves evolve and change their minds, because there's a lot of magic that happens when you allow that. The next truth that I've accepted and standing by is that being present is so much harder than it sounds. And I truly feel like our environment and the world just not built for us to be present in. So many things are going on. Life is so fast. I don't understand the concept of time anymore. I, for the longest time, felt like I'm lacking something because I find myself in autopilot so often. And I just really realized that it's just part of the life that I've chose. And this is such a active choice that I have to make, the being present, it requires so much self-awareness and so much strength and so much discipline for me to stop for a second that I, in a way, had to schedule it into my day. And I find that I'm able to achieve that presence, even if it's a few small moments throughout the day, it fills me up. I can achieve those present moments when I brush my teeth or when I'm making myself my cup of coffee. I really try to find these like small moments where I can just be in that moment and not multitask. And again, I think the hardest thing for us is to get out of this multitasking mode because there's so much to do and so little time where we can truly look around and be there right now. I've also realized that I have to take breaks in order to make space for that presence. You know, it was kind of a huge realization for me when we went to Europe because I've realized that the past 6 months or so, or since honestly our last family vacation, the whole family were just kind of roommates. You know, everyone is moving and doing whatever they need to do, if it's homework or going to see friends, or Gary and myself working, and the kids are out of school and activities, and there was just no really moments of connection. And when we got the opportunity to just really be with each other for 3 weeks straight, it really dawned on me how important creating those times and environments for that connection to happen. So yes, it's very difficult to be present, but I also don't beat myself up for it and just really pay attention to when I can insert those moments in. I don't think I can be present 24/7. If I'm being honest, it's just not something that honestly I'm interested even in doing because life is just it's just going to feel weird. It's not how I'm built, okay? So I can be present a little bit here and there and then in big chunks when it's scheduled. And that's just a hard truth about me. I don't know. The next truth is that the relationship that I have with myself sets the tone for all the other relationships in my life. I've been very, very vocal about the idea of being selfish, or like my friend Danielle corrected me, self-full. I know it sometimes can sound very self-centered, especially these days, online. It just feels like we're all constantly talking about ourselves and our own, growth journey and all the things. And I understand that as well. But I do find that in my personal life, as a mother, as a wife, as a friend, when I put myself first, I truly get to not only learn what I want and what I need for my relationships, but also ask for that and set the tone for the connections that I'm forming. And that has been a blessing in my life. That has brought me so much fulfillment because that's what relationships are for. Because I care about the relationship that I have with myself, make sure that I make enough time for myself, I'm also able to identify what does not serve me, even if it looks good on the outside. And again, that comes in forms of projects for work. It comes in the forms of friendships that are coming into my life. I'm just way more clear on how it needs to feel to match what I need in my life. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful lesson and like place to arrive in too. Pausing has been a big lesson for me this year because I've always been shown that force is what gets you through. So to learn how to pause, and that can pertain to ambition, to career, to any conflict, hustle, anything. Learn how to pause has been one of my biggest lessons for this year. I had to feel comfortable in walking away or backing away from something that I just needed more time to reevaluate, and not pushing things forward just for the sake of progress. So that is truly, for me, when I say power and pausing, it truly is power because, again, brought me so much clarity. There's even, I don't remember the name, so forgive me, but there's a book that someone just wrote. I think it was called The Big Pause or something. And that specifically speaks on the career women that are taking a pause to have kids and raise kids. And I think that book, the thesis of it is very aligned with just learning how to pause certain things in your life in order to get other things done, in order to, check in with yourself, in order to arrive to really clear conclusions. So that has been a big one for me. I'm telling you, 35 has brought a lot of great stuff. The world today, as we know it, with social media, and of course myself, being on social media and all the platforms and putting myself out there, my opinions, my thoughts, my view, on life, has brought a lot of criticism, feedback, opinions, and something that I've learned, not just this year, because it took me a very long time to learn, is that most things don't need a reaction, truly. And it started as a lesson that I had to learn for social media and for my work in order for me to continue being in this field. Because if you do get triggered by every single thing and feel the need to prove yourself or your point to somebody, you burn yourself out really fast. There's definitely no longevity in that. So it started online, but then it also translated to real life. And that has been a beautiful thing to learn. Most things don't need a reaction. Which brings me to my next point. It's okay not to be for everyone. I'm still learning that because I've realized that I grew up with this need to get approval from people, to feel accepted by others, and that is going to be a lifelong journey to be okay with not getting the approval. And I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job because I kind of look for my own approval on things and not seek out validations from the outside. Again, a tricky thing to do with my line of work, but here we are. It's a very sink or swim situation, but so far I've been swimming. There's this feeling of comfort with accepting that you're just not going to be liked by anyone else. For some people, it comes way easier. And it's really something that I'm going to look into it more. It obviously, or I think it comes from childhood, maybe culturally. That was a very difficult thing for me to let go of. I think that's why it's been taking me this long to find my voice and also feel comfortable on commenting, on things and standing my ground on a lot of subjects and topics. It feels good because when you find your crowd, when you find your people, or when you find people that don't agree with you but are open-minded, I think that the satisfaction from that is so much higher. You have the right people around you. The next lesson is something that I've realized or able to articulate only recently. I started listening to this book. It's called The Art of Thinking Clearly. It's a great book. It's very dense, but it also just reminds you that we are all living this life through our own lens, through our own biases, and it's just something that you really have to continue reminding yourself when you're interacting with people in the world. We spend so much time trying to prove ourselves to other people, our beliefs, our ideas. And I guess it relates to, the previous truth that I mentioned, that not everything needs a reaction, but it's that knowing that we're all experiencing this life just differently. And it's a gift if you keep remembering that, because then you are able to, get a glimpse through conversations, to interacting with other people that are different than you. You get a glimpse of their lenses, but it also is a reminder to just choose and pick your own lens, because otherwise you get swept by everyone else's movies. You know what I mean? And this is really what it is. Life is just your movie, and you choose how you want to view it, and you choose how do you want to experience different things. And that's really it. So, the book itself can feel a bit cynical at times because you just realize how everything is just, all the experts and the analysts and all these things they're all founded on so much bias, on such like complex ideas. But at the bottom of it, it's very simple. We are just living in our own little worlds, trying to interact with other people. But there's definitely a formula.
This episode is sponsored by Clearstem. So I've been using Clearstem since last year and have always loved how the products keep my skin clear and glowing, and the routine is very simple. Clearstem just launched a whole new look with their rebrand, and I love the new aesthetic and how they look on my vanity because looks matter, A current Clearstem product my skin is loving right now is the Clearstem Bounce Back Fine Line Serum. It is nicknamed their No Talk Serum because it provides these noticeable results for fine lines. You definitely feel how it plumps the skin and keeps it firm, so it's a full yes for me. Clear skin changes everything. Discover the Clearstem difference and experience clear, healthy skin for life. All you do is go to clearstem.com/Valeria and use code Valeria at checkout for 15% off your first order. That's CLEARSTEM.com/Valeria and code Valeria for 15% off. Discover the Clearstem difference and experience clear, healthy skin for life.
Okay, another truth that I've learned, and this one I had to pull up my computer because this is very interesting. What initially I wrote is that growth is not linear, but something that I've realized is there is a formula, and I'm a Virgo. I need to have a formula for everything in my life. It has to make sense. So I actually first heard about this book. It's called The Hero's Journey, and it's by Joseph Campbell. And it is basically a narrative structure that describes a hero transformative journey through a series of stages. So I think this is meant more for like writers to really understand how to tell a story, but it also honestly is a metaphor and a structure to what we go through. So I want to take you through this because it also very much showcases that growth is not linear, but it is a bit of a circle, you know what I mean? So here's the breakdown of the key stages. So the first one is the departure separation. The hero's initial familiar world is established, and this is just life as you know it for us, The next one is the call to adventure. This is where the hero receives a call to action, a challenge, or an opportunity that disrupts their ordinary life. Again, you can apply it over and over and over again to your experiences in life. The next one is the refusal of the call. The hero may initially hesitate or refuse the call due to fear or uncertainty. Meeting the mentor, the hero then encounters a mentor who provides guidance, support, or a magical weapon. Again, in so many different aspects of life, you meet somebody, whether it's in real life or now through social media, that really becomes a mentor for you to kind of get that signal of move forward. You can do this. Then it's crossing the threshold. The hero commits to the adventure and enters the unknown world, leaving their ordinary life behind. Isn't it kind of wild to see how it can apply to your life? The next one is the initiation and then descent. So this is where the hero faces various trials, meets allies who help him, and confronts enemies who hinder their progress. Then the hero prepares for the central challenge or crisis. So this is kind of the peak in your journey, where you are often get into this dangerous or unknown place. Again, dangerous doesn't mean physically dangerous, or maybe yes, depends on what it is that you're going through. Then it's the hero confronts their greatest fear or challenge, often alive for that situation. Then it's the reward. The hero overcomes the ordeal and gains a reward such as treasure, knowledge, or transformed understanding of themselves. Then you see the return stage where the hero begins their journey back to the ordinary world, potentially facing pursuit or further challenges. The hero undergoes a final transformation or purification, demonstrating their mastery of the journey. The hero returns to their ordinary world, bringing back the reward or knowledge gained from their adventure and sharing it with their community. This is, again, just a plot structure, but is it not also a metaphor for personal growth and transformation and just in general the human experience of facing challenges and meaning in life. Sometimes you get so consumed with the challenges and what you're going through that you don't see how you can get past it. And not a lot of us are born, with this positive outlook on life. So sometimes tools like this remind you to kind of move out of that hyper focused view of your situation and see it from that bird's eye view and know that this is part of the circle of growth. But for me, this was like, oh my God, I will be using that as a reminder for a long time. So growth is not linear, but there's definitely a formula. These are some things that I know so far, but here's a few that I am still figuring out and very open to the idea that I just might never figure out. Are you ready for this? I already mentioned it previously, but the idea of time, I don't know if I'll ever be able to understand the concept of time, because as you live it, especially if you have small kids, like it's a mind game. I want time to stop, but at the same time, I want it to go faster. Some days are so long and the years are so short, and I just find myself spiraling with this feeling that we're running out of time. And the more I think about it, it becomes the biggest commodity. I mean, it is really the biggest commodity that we have, that money can't buy, nothing can buy it, and it's time. And I have to tell you, it sometimes really throws me off into a lot of emotional directions when I think about it. So I, of course, remind myself that all I can do is, again, practice on being present. I think that's kind of the hack to slow down time. But I don't know, I can't figure it out. I'm talking about it, it makes me sad. So I don't know how to deal with that. So if you have the answer, you let me know. It's kind of wild to also think that I'm celebrating my 35th birthday. I think about, my mother getting older, my brothers getting older. I don't know. It's wild. Is this the existential crisis that happens? I don't know. Something that I also don't know, this is going to be a long section here, is feeling success instead of chasing the next goal. And again, I think that all these points connect to each other because the feeling requires presence, and you embody success when you really have time to slow down and realize and look around. So I don't know how to do that yet. Like, I know how to do it a little bit, but it's definitely something that I'm going to continue practicing. And also, I think it's something that comes with age, which is so crazy because if we had those abilities when we were younger, I feel like we would live very different lives than we do. It's usually when you're older that you've gaining all this knowledge and looking back and being like, if I only knew. But I guess that's the tricky part of being a human. How to age. How to age in a world that is obsessed with youth is also something I don't know yet. I'm very aware how aging is a privilege. I make a very conscious effort surrounding myself with older women that I aspire to be and inspire me. Live a beautiful, fulfilling life. I am so happy that we've got to a point in society when we do put more spotlight on those women. And I make an effort to bring those women to you, if it's through the podcast or sharing them on my social media. It's truly a privilege to learn from them and observe them. And I am hoping by doing that, it will bring me some kind of way to deal with getting older. Again, I understand that the concept is a privilege. I get it. Don't get me wrong. But we also live in a superficial world. And the things that we measure up to, our examples are still very much ingrained in our brain. So I'm still working through that and figuring out kind of my path through it. And listen, I'm talking about aging, superficially on the outside. On the inside, I'm very excited about it. I find it funny when I find myself feeling like outdated when I don't know certain concepts, or the kids, tell me about some stuff and I just like roll my eyes. Like that makes me laugh because I enjoy that kind of getting older. Right now, it's kind of like on the outside as a woman. And, I've been hearing more and more conversations about that like invisible age. First, I heard Gwyneth Paltrow talking about it, but then I sat down with my dear friend Heidi. She was telling me the invisible age when you just kind of go out on the street and you just realize that no one looks at you anymore. And that's kind of wild. So I'm sitting with this right now. And I know that with time and with age, different things will have different value to them, but just sharing where I'm at 35. One thing that I don't know how to do yet, and this is a small little thing, but it actually been on my mind for a while now. I'm going to share this interaction that I had actually a couple of years ago. I was on a trip with a brand and it was a big group of girls. And we spent amazing 4 days together. We're leaving that day and we're saying our goodbyes. And then one of the girls that came, she hugged me and she's like, "It was so lovely to meet you. You're wonderful." I'm like, "You're wonderful." And then I said, "Let's grab coffee," or like, "Let's connect, when I'm in New York." And she kind of looks at me and she's like, "We're not going to grab coffee." Because the way I said it was that like, "Oh yeah, let's grab a drink sometime, and you just like never follow through. And that moment hit me so hard because, first of all, I was in awe of her directness, honesty, and kindness because she didn't say it in like a bitchy way. It's true, And it also made me look at myself and be like, that was iconic. Like, I want to learn how to be kind versus nice. There's something about niceness that is really annoying to me lately as I get older because I feel like the niceness or whatever I categorize as niceness has a little bit of robotic tendencies to it. Do you know what I mean? And I want to reconnect with, and I would truly say, my Slavic roots and learn how to be kind, but true and honest. And that moment was the beginning 2 years ago, guys. 2 years ago it happened. And it's still something that I play in my mind. And I'm consciously thinking about it whenever I interact with people. And whenever I see somebody, it happened to me last week, whenever I see somebody and we have like a little small talk, whatever, it's always an opportunity for me to practice that, Again, be kind, a good person, but don't say things you don't mean. So at the end of our little interaction, I was like, "Let's grab coffee someday." And I'm like, shit, that was an opportunity. And I just went autopilot. So I'm still working on that because I don't know how to do that. And I don't know if anybody can truly understand me. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe you're just like, "Are you joking me? Just be a nice person." But I can't explain it to you. There's like a difference. So that's something that I don't know how to do yet, but I'm learning. Which is such a silly thing. It's like a small little, thing. But it's not the way it comes out to other people. It's more like how it sits with me. It just doesn't feel like true to who I am because I want to be known as somebody who is direct, who's clear, who is kind, but just no pretending. You don't have to do, the way we've been kind of doing it, which I feel like it's more prevalent in North America. But again, it's not a bad thing. I just don't want to do that anymore. Any of you that have that figured out, you let me know how that's going for you. I want to move into this next part because as I shared the truth that I'm standing by to the things that I don't know yet, I also want to talk about what I'm leaving behind and what I'm taking with me. Because I do a lot of self-inventory every year, especially getting closer to my birthday. I don't know about you, but I get a bit sad around my birthday, maybe because there is so many thoughts and so much reflection, all beautiful and very powerful, but I just kind of need people to leave me alone for that, the month before my birthday. But anyways, that's just like the way I deal with things. But let me get into things that I am leaving behind. So something that I have been priding myself in is letting things go quickly so I don't seem too emotional. And I do have those tendencies naturally in me where I don't like to sit and harbor too long on things. Life is just too short. You see, in that way, I understand kind of the concept of time. Like, I don't want to spend so much energy and emotions on this because it's just going to keeps feeding it, you know? But I do find that sometimes I do that because it's just my way of like detachment. There are incidents where I realize now and I see that it's more of a form of a survival skill, this detachment, and it kind of takes me away further from myself. I actually feel like I get disconnected from myself when I don't give myself the ability to truly sit with something and like work through it, even if it takes longer than I wanted to. So that's definitely something that I leave behind, this like need to not be too emotional, looking at what's in front of me and kind of evaluating, you know, if this is something that I really need to sink into and go through it. Another thing that I'm leaving behind is having answers for everything. Again, we live nowadays in this expert culture. And I even think that there's a bit of a pressure for people to just really state, you know, things and give answers. And I just really love saying, I don't know. I don't have the experience yet. Oh, that gave Meghan Markle the yet. I don't know yet. But I feel very comfortable in saying that. And it makes me empowered in being honest and not just like saying some bullshit answer just so I come off, you know, as someone who knows everything. That way, it just makes me feel wiser. Not knowing and feeling comfortable stating it is a very wise move, I gotta say. Over explaining my boundaries to get approval. The word boundaries is kind of annoying because I feel like it's another term that's been just thrown out there so many times in so many different ways, and in a way we kind of lost the context of it. But for me, boundaries is just kind of my rules to enter, you know, my home. My home is my heart and my soul and just my, you know, vicinity. And I used to feel the need to explain them, and I don't feel that need anymore. It's actually pretty cutthroat, I must say. And that's okay with me, honestly. I feel like it's also been very helpful to eliminate the wrong people, connections, experiences in my life and take that time and emotional capacity to focus on more important things. The last one is one that I learned the hard way through experience on social media, but I think it really applies also to real life, because I think a lot of us, not I think, I know, a lot of us learned how to connect either through gossip or through trauma. And I've learned that, you know, turning my pain into content too fast can be pretty detrimental and a bit of a self betrayal, if I'm being honest. And that really is just the oversharing. Even if it comes from a place of wanting to connect, of wanting to, you know, be vulnerable so people can learn from your experience or learn about you, I've realized that it just robs me from just my inner world. You know, I'm sure you know that feeling of when you are sitting down with somebody and you kind of opt for that type of connection where you just share so much of what you're going through that you leave that conversation being like, why did I do that? That did not feel good. So I've learned that through content, but I've also realized that I do that in real life. And that has been a big shift for me when I started moving away from that behavior. And that actually happened a few years ago, because you want to preserve your world. You want to live it. You want to experience it. You want to go through that with your own lens. And sometimes when you open up and share too much too fast, you're starting to get opinions. You're starting to get people's words and observations from where they stand, and that just really messes up the way you experience all of it and the lessons that you're supposed to learn. I'm a big believer that we are all our own experts and our own gurus for our own lives, and literally no one knows better. Sometimes your mom does, but sometimes with very specific topics. But otherwise, it's all in there. So you can have a shortcut by going to someone and them telling you what to do or how to feel or how to navigate this. So I think that's the point of therapy, no? They just like kind of guide you back to yourself. Those things I am so happy to leave behind and bring in this new ways of being into my future. I think this is all a very natural evolution with age. There are no shortcuts. And I love when younger women, they sit down and they ask for advice. I think that's a beautiful thing. I do that a lot with older women in my life. But it's more of not advice, but more of an opportunity to watch someone's journey and really find what speaks to you in there, and a piece of wisdom that can kind of sit in the back of your mind that one day it will come up for you, you'll be able to use. So that's how I look at those kind of conversations when I come for quote unquote advice. Listen, I shared with you things that took me years to process. I always talk about my journey of changing behaviors, and it really starts with first the triggers. When you feel like something has to change, something is not right, you can and want to do better, and that in itself takes years, right? To have that self-awareness, to really pinpoint to what it is. The next kind of stage for me is, you see, I love clarity, I love formulas. So, it's really realizing what it is that I want to change. It's then looking around and looking for models of the behavior and the way of being that I want to adapt, that I feel like I have it in me, that speak to me. And I want to see it in action. When I see somebody, a mentor, even if they don't know that they're my mentor, if it's online, if it's even from my, we look at celebrities sometimes and we kind of give our own idea of how their life is and how they move in the world, the kind of people they are. Even that, it's like the fruit of our imagination, right? To me, currently, it's Pamela Anderson. I stand that queen. To me, she is a mentor because she comes across to me as someone who lives so authentically and so loudly in her truth. And that is just so beautiful and empowering to see, especially as an older woman who lived so many different lives. Observing someone like that, her modeling that kind of behavior shows me how it looks. And then it's years of trying to implement it, right? I was sharing with you earlier how this like kind versus nice, something that's been with me for a few years now, and I still can't freaking master it. It's taking time. So I guess my point is that the timeline for these things, for these lessons, is so different for each and every one of us, but there is no shortcuts. The point of me sharing with you these things is for it to ignite the first step, which is the awareness. Because if you heard it and it tugged at something in your heart, you're like, this is something I want to look into and explore more and ask questions and get curious. And that's where it starts. So hopefully this 35 things that I've learned and things I leave behind and things that I don't know did something. Maybe one, maybe two, maybe five. I just really want to say thank you for being here. This community means so much to me because as I get older and I'm able to share kind of my own wisdom and my own experience, it also feels like I'm giving back and I'm not keeping all of this to myself. And that is a gift on its own. So being able to have a community that I can just pour out, all of this into is truly such a fulfilling thing. And you guys are just the best. I wish myself a very happy birthday. I hope I won't be super sad. This year, I'm also doing something a little bit different. I'm throwing a birthday party which is literally everything I hate and stresses the hell out of me. But here I am trying to do things outside of my comfort zone, because I do feel like this is such a beautiful moment to celebrate all the things that I've left behind, that I'm taking with me, and that are yet to come. And I am grateful that you are part of this journey as well. I would love to hear from you. Is there a lesson that you've discovered recently, or something that you're sitting with right now? I'm really curious. Also, share your age. I'm also very curious to look into the different seasons we're all in. And I love hearing from your own experiences, because you teach me a lot about myself. So thank you so much for being here. And I will see you in the next episode. I will be 35 then. Yay! Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't miss my newest episode right here. And if you're listening to the podcast on Apple or Spotify, please go and leave a review with your biggest takeaway. I love reading your thoughts. They inspire me. So if you have any suggestions for guests or topics, you can leave them in the comment section. And always, always remember, you are not alone.